Hi, welcome back to the channel. If you're an oil painter, you probably run into a situation where you have basically some bad brushes because you didn't take care of them well, you didn't clean them well. You've been told don't do this, don't do that. You know, there are a lot of ways to clean your brushes. I'm going to share the way I clean my brushes. Stick around. Okay, at the risk of making this a very long video and getting into great detail about how I mix, why I mix my paint with a palette brush or a palette knife and all these other things, I'm going to let all that go to the wayside and just say that I'm kind of OCD when it comes to a clean working environment while I paint. I don't even like my palette to be messy. I don't really care to have my paint brushes messy and all those things. So as I paint, you would think I would constantly be cleaning my brush and going from one color to the next with a clean brush, but I try to stay out of my turpenoid. I use turpenoid odorless, which we'll get that out of the way now. This is turpenoid odorless. It's got the blue label on it. Whenever I'm doing a painting, I will actually use paper towel off to the side, and whenever I get a buildup of paint, I'll clean it off on the paper towel, or in addition to that, I usually keep a rag with me, and I'll clean up out of the rag and get quite a bit of paint off there. If I need to change color or kind of clean my colors up a little bit, I'll add a little bit of medium to my brush and clean the brush out with medium. I don't really like to use any kind of a thinner during the painting process because I don't want to slow the drying time down on the paint. So that's pretty much why I do what I do and the way I do it. Now, the way you work may actually determine how you clean your brushes too. I know a lot of people who like to clean their brushes constantly in their thinner, and then at the end of their session, they'll clean it really good in their thinner, and then they'll add turpenoid natural, which is a more viscous version that really never dries. Keep in mind though, if you use turpenoid natural, you're going to want to get that off your brush before you add paint back into your brush. It's not good for your paint. It's not good for your paintings. So make sure you clean that out thoroughly. This is a bad brush. This is an example of just a nasty, hard, crusty, terrible bristle brush. I won't paint with this anymore. I might mix paint with it on my palette. Typically I use a palette knife for that, but you know, that's what happens when you don't clean your brushes. Now this Da Vinci brush is a pretty old brush. I've had it for many years. It's still like new. It's soft enough that I can get nice detail and smooth brush strokes, but yet still stiff enough that I can move oil paint with it. Alright, so how do I do it? How do I keep them clean? The steps are simple. As I work, I keep a lot of the paint out of the brush. I try to keep paint from going into the ferrule. I try to keep the paint as clean on the brush as I possibly can. Use the cleanest versions of paint that I can use. Okay? I don't add a lot of thinner. If I add any thinner at all, it's actually mixed in my medium so that I still have the drying capabilities that I'm looking for, or the thinning capabilities I'm looking for, or properties, I should say, not capabilities, but properties. So as I'm painting, when I'm done with the brush, I'm done with the day, I'll use turpenoid odorless as a thinner to clean the brush thoroughly, to get all the paint out. To start with, I'll use my paper towel to kind of wipe off the excess paint that I had built up from painting, and then I'll grab my rag, and I'll try to get as much more paint out of it as much paint out of it as I still can while I'm still in the studio. Now, if I'm in the field doing something in plein air, this all still applies. When I'm thoroughly done, and I know I'm done, I'll grab my solvent container, which is full of the Turpenoid odorless. Again, the blue jug, blue label jug, and that's what I have in here. This travels nice. It's got a gasket on the lid. It cinches down pretty tight, so it's not going to spill. It's kind of nice that way. It's got a brush screen in the bottom, so there's a gasket there that keeps it from spilling. But there's a brush screen in the bottom that helps you clean your brushes. So this is real handy. That's my dog. I think he's ready to go on a walk. Or food. I bet he wants cheese. Can't say that word too loud around him. He goes crazy. Anyway, I'll clean it out like that. And that'll usually get me home with a clean brush. Trouble is, if you leave it like that, that's what makes them crusty and nasty. That's what gets them to where your brush is basically ruined because you don't clean out the turpentine or the turpenoid odorless, and it just dries the bristles out real bad and gets down in the ferrule, and it's nasty. When you go to stick it back in your brush holder, your jar, however you store your brushes in your studio, if you store them upright like this, material gets down inside there and it just tears it up. So that's not good. I actually use soap, regular old dishwashing liquid soap, and warm water. When I get back to the studio, or whenever, like if I've been out painting and I get back to the studio, I'll add more odorless mineral spirits to it to get it kind of pliable again. And then I'll go clean them with soap. If I'm working in my studio that evening and my session's done, I'll just simply rinse them out really good, get them all cleaned together. It's part of my cleanup process. I'll go to the kitchen and add some soap and warm water in the bottom of the sink there, and just kind of mix it up. When I get back to a point where I can clean the brushes really good, I'll use a little bit of soap. I can put soap in my hand, like a drop of soap, and I'll coat the bristles with soap, and I'll do this with it and get them good and clean and rinse it out. Use the water to rinse them out really good, and just take a good look at it. And by the time it's dry, I let them dry this way. I put them on the table, let them dry this way. I don't, once I get done washing them, I don't throw them back in my container, because I don't want the water to go in here and just tear up the glue and everything under the ferrule. So I'll let them dry thoroughly this way, and then I might put them back in my holders if I'm not using them very much. So that's that way. I've heard people have good results with the conditioners you can buy from the art supply stores. I'm sure they're good. I've never used them. I just don't see the point in spending the money on that sort of thing when soap works fine for me. In fact, my brushes are still fine. I don't have any trouble with them. So to me, soap is fine. You might have different results. I don't know. I've also heard people use Murphy's oil soap. Works out pretty good. I've seen vegetable oil being used with water. There's a lot of different ways to do it out there. If you're a painter who paints daily, you might find that just cleaning them out in the turpenoid odorless, and then adding turpenoid natural to the bristles when you're finished. Let them sit on your palette or wherever it is you can lay it, like a table, lay them flat. That way the next day when you come in, there's still that turpenoid natural doesn't dry, so they're still really pliable. They're soft. Just again, make sure you clean it out in your turpenoid odorless before you start painting. For me, again, that just doesn't work well because I don't want to start with a lot of thinner in my brush. Maybe it won't matter, but I choose not to do that. I just don't want to do it that way. So anyhow, if you have a way that you like to clean your brushes, or if you have a tip for me or some other people in the comments below, if let's build this community and talk about how we clean our brushes. I hope this was useful to you. I hope you found value in this video. If you did, give it a like. Subscribe to my channel if you're not already. Share the video with your friends. Yeah, I think that's all I got today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Later.